Oh. Volume up.
Dungeons and Nerds.
There we go.
I love it.
Now you hear it. Is that what we're naming the book club, Revenge of the Nerds? Is that what you said?
Yeah. I like it.
We have to have a name. Alright.
Just food for thought, I tried to recruit Ryan Hand, and he was like, I'm about to have a kid, I can't speak meeting. I was like,
Sounds cool,
very-
but
I was very interested though. He was just like, this is not the right time for me. I was like, all right.
Yeah, the real reason he's cooler than this. You know, he's not ready to be a nerd yet. I don't think I became a nerd until I was maybe 8 or 10 years older than him.
I used to be cool. Now I'm in a book club.
Yeah. I was.
I had tattoos and rode motorcycles.
Yeah, I was hesitant because, of course, as the saying go, I wouldn't be a part of any club that would have me as a member.
Nice. That's good.
Sounds like I want to say that was what's his name? Oh God, my mind is a terrible thing to waste. What the hell's his name? 1800s American author.
Mark Twain?
Mark Twain. Yes.
Actually, I have a good deli down the road there, close by this unit.
What's that?
Mark Twain. There's a diner.
Oh, diner.
With all the they show the frames and you get pictures all related to his books.
Gotcha. He's great, man. Okay.
All right. So who else are we waiting for? We have Elena, Mike, and Corey.
Yeah, Carissa, unfortunately, she won't be able to join us today. Andre Bryan is going to personal matters, his hospital and things.
Miriam, Tony. Tony said he's not going to be able to make it. Carissa said she's not going to be able to make it. And Miriam.
John Diaz, the person I see.
Is John Diaz on?
No, he's on the calendar invitation.
Okay. Miriam responded. Miriam accepted. And then she said tentative. No, tentative first, accepted the second time. So, have you guys ever been in a book club before?
I haven't.
Not me.
There's Miriam.
Nope.
Miriam, have you ever been in a book club before?
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm just adjusting my volume. I know you guys are talking.
Have
What
you
was
ever have you ever been in a book club before, Miriam?
No.
We're looking for experienced book club members. We're struggling.
with the agenda.
Yeah, we're struggling with our agenda. What do you do? What do you do once you act like you read it? Did everybody finish the book?
I was not able to finish, but I wrote a ton of notes as I was going through, but I wasn't able to finish it all.
All right.
How did you like it?
That's the first question on our
That's the first and only question.
our lengthy meeting agenda that we put together here is what was your opinion of the book? So let's start with Corey. Since you made it partway through the book, what was your opinion?
That's harsh. So I wrote a ton of notes on it as I was going through, and just, you can't help but try to internalize it to what you can do. And luckily, I don't have to read the entire thing because it kept saying leader of leaders, and I was like, that is absolutely not me. I am quite on the bottom of the totem pole. So
That's why we read though.
I
To make our way up the totem pole.
To me, it was. I know it reminded me. I remember in one of my first interviews or talks with Ed, he called it the big hairy goal, but in this one they call it the wildly important goal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny how you kind of digging into it. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. And then it's almost like the guy hears you thinking, and is like, I know what you're thinking, but that's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, like I couldn't help but give it a sitting with the lead measure and the lag measure. Like it was almost like, well, I know what I have to do here. And he's like, nope, you're wrong. That's a lag measure. And I was like, oh, all right. You know, like it was almost like, I mean, obviously they've been teaching this for decades, and it was just fascinating that it felt like they were sitting in the room with me and kept saying, nope, you're doing that wrong. And I'm like, how did you know? Like, are you sitting in here with me? Like it was really bizarre. You know what I mean? But no, yeah, I'm starting to kind of. I don't know what else to go past that other than just to continue to yammer and yammer.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right. That's a good start.
Well, I listened 3 times. Same book.
Listen to the book.
Not the whole entire thing. As I was driving, I was in about 4.5 hours. The second time it was about 6 hours. The total book I think is 8 hours and 15 minutes. You had Audible, right? Mm-hmm. And then because I was driving, but I was not able to pay attention to what was happening. I wanted to make notes, and then finally I took 2 nights, during the weekend, lay down my bed, and then I started making notes for the whole entire weekend, and then when things started clicking, and I was starting to understand what this 40x meant, and the things that we don't see and we don't realize. That's when I realized it's very important. The 20% that they're mentioning is not 20%. It becomes way bigger than that, especially once it's changed from a gig to a whirlwind, right? And then it becomes part of your routine, and then becomes part of your life, and then more challenging. And it just takes control of everything. It is. Really enjoyed it. It draw me in.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna we're gonna see the impact. Since we're applying onto our company, we're definitely gonna see the results, the fruition, in a year or so. And from that, it's just a home run.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go next. When we made this organizational change, and I started thinking about what I would want to do in this new position, I was really, thinking about like, okay, we kind of need to set some goals and kind of set a little bit of a structure to what's going on, and ironically or fortunately, I was interviewing a candidate for Bob Palumbo's job, someone who didn't get the job, and the guy was very interesting, older gentleman, tons of manufacturing experience, and I spoke with him for about an hour, and I think I said about maybe 4 or 5 sentences during the interview, and he was talking about all these different. He was referencing all this different stuff, and he talked about the 4 disciplines of execution. And I said to myself, I know that book. I listened to that a long time ago. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I remember that after I had, it was a long while after I had listened to and read the 7 Habits. I had come across this book and listened to it, and implemented it in a specific thing for when I was in charge of the roofing operations when we were having a really difficult time with leaks on jobs, and I had a group of people that I kind of worked through this with, and I didn't do it very effectively then. I kind of took bits and pieces of things that were in the book about setting the goals and a scoreboard and meeting regularly about formulating those leading measures. So for me, it came at the perfect time in taking this new position and you know, sometimes people in your life come to you at the right time, and this particular person who didn't get the job came to me at a time where it was important for me to I feel like try to find a structured path to what we want to do, you know, in our group. So I like things to, even though I didn't turn out to be a gold in the you know, in the true
Oh, the
colors.
true color?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily gold. I'm a lot more orange than I am gold. But I aspire to be
I'm
gold.
orange.
You know, I aspire to be gold, and I do respect the hell out of Mike Core, because he was probably gold and gold when he took his assessment. But I aspire to be a gold, and the book resonated with me because it is very much in line with the 7 Habits. You can very easily get hung up in the whirlwind of life, not just business. You know, and in the 7 Habits, it talks about different roles in your life that you are. You know what I mean? Whether it be your home life, a father or a husband, or in your personal life as a manager or a leader, and the importance of trying to determine who you want to be at a certain point, and work your way backward from there, and make sure that you are disciplined to completing tasks that are going to get you to that final spot. So to me, this was excellent because it does begin with the end in mind, with what we want to be as a group, and it keeps you focused on doing those things with the weekly meetings. So your lagging measure is begin with the end in mind. It's who do I want to be? Who do we want to be as a group? You know, what our goals are. And then those leading measures is put first things first in the 7 Habits book. It's about making sure that you complete those weekly tasks that are going to inch you closer and closer to being what you want to be. And then the other part about it that I really enjoyed was it kind of stirs my competitive nature with the scoreboards. You know, it's like if any of us in this group, you know, a lot of us have played sports, or a lot of us even have competitiveness about us. Like, I'm not sure if Miriam has ever played sports, but I know she's a hell of a competitive person. You know what I mean? So I know that type of thing resonates too, because having that.
Competitive swimming.
What's that? You're a swimmer?
Competitive swimming.
Competitive swimming. See, I knew you were competitive somewhere along the line, Miriam, because I know that you are a very competitive person. So I really enjoyed that about it too, because it's not just doing things to do them, it's doing things to measure your progress, and to have that scoreboard, I think is another cool part about it, because you can say, okay, yeah, we're getting better with it. And then along with, like I said, the 7 Habits book and how it parallels it, or it's, you know, those tried and true principles that that resonate here. It's also about. I also appreciated the philosophy of getting the teams involved and having them really brainstorm those leading measures that they come up with, you know, and how, from a leadership standpoint, that's an excellent way of leading people to give them that space, that freedom, that skin in the game, that, you know, you engage them with having them be the ones that both set goals or help to set the goals, and also be the ones that come up with the leading measures that are going to get to those goals.
I think we're very fortunate that you had the opportunity to meet with that guy that appeared on your way, and I think aligned with our best interests because for the last let's say year, you corrected me say if I'm say something that's not right, but Vinny and I were we were trying to do our best, and then not that was doing anything wrong, but the fact that you came along with this idea, perfectly aligned with what we wanted to do, but we did not know how to do it. We didn't know how the steps. And now having you with your experience and making sure enforcing this habit, creating gigs and so that helps us to achieve the goal that we actually wanted to do, wanted to be there, the milestones until we get there, that we were not sure how to do it. Now we have a clear path, we know what to do, and then as a collectivity, we're going to be working as with teams and giving everybody the opportunity to work along, along with us and making it possible, right? It's not longer a dream, we're not dreaming, by ourselves now. It's a collective effort. Everybody's participating, so it makes a reality.
This is where dreams become reality.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the place.
If you dream alone, yeah, it's a dream. Yeah, if you what does it say? It becomes if you dream a dream alone, it's nothing but a dream. But if you dream, I forgot what the whole thing. It becomes reality.
If you engage in
Yeah.
a group or,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is exactly what is happening. So I thank you for that, because this is a great experience and learning curve for all of us. I mean, in particular for me.
All right. Anybody else want to weigh in? This is the most quiet Vinny's been
I'm just listening.
in.
Just listening, taking it in.
Just listening. Anyone else?
So I have a comment.
Okay.
Yes, so related to what you were talking, Russ, I was trying to put together, to identify what the lead and the lag measures are, because I initially, when I first started listening, I'm thinking like, all right, it does make sense, but when I start looking at the project, the construction project, then I was debating maybe this would be the lead, or maybe this would be the lag measures. I know that the wildly important goal, that would be project schedule, right? Meeting the project in time. And then from there, I started tracking like, all right, so then the lags would be, the lags would be the installation at a certain time. So to meet the milestone that we have from the project, the material delivered on time, that we do everything safely, and there, if we're meeting our budget too. So then those would be the lag measures. And then each one of them has its own category. So then I would get to the lead measures, right? I mean, did I understand it right?
So,
What do you think?
yeah, I could put it in an example. So your swimming experience. So your lag measure is your goal. And your goal in swimming may be to achieve a certain time, right? That's the scoreboard. So it might be to beat your personal best by 5 seconds or whatever that is. So your lag measure is always going to be your goal. And the reason why it's a lag measure is because it lags behind whatever actions you take before that happens, right? So that's why it's a lagging measure. So it's behind. The leading measures are the actions that you take in order to get to that goal, if that makes sense. So your leading measure may be, I'm going to work with my coach 5 times a week to improve my technique. That could be a leading measure. Another leading measure could be that you're going to swim 100 laps a day.
Stretches.
Yeah, so it's a leading measure, and it's going to, and if you achieve that, then you're formulating to yourself, what things do I need to do to meet this goal? And they're your leading measures. So if I could swim 100 laps a day in practice, then I think that that's going to help me to improve my time by 5 seconds. Does that make sense? I used an example the other day for another group. If I'm a basketball coach, and say the basketball coach is the CEO of a company. You know, that's what he is basically. He's the CEO of his company, and he's setting a goal that they're going to win a game or win a certain amount of games. That's the goal. It's the win or loss. Inside of that team, for that coach who's the CEO, he has other assistant coaches, and those assistant coaches have more specialty tasks. So this basketball coach may have a shooting coach, and the shooting coach is specifically responsible to make sure that the guys shoot better, right? So the CEO, the coach's goal is to win a certain number of games. They can analyze it and say, okay, well right now we're shooting 60% from the free throw line. So the shooting coach can say, okay, I need to get that 60% up to 80%. So they're the lagging measures. How do I get from 60% free throw percentage to 80% free throw percentage? Right? So that's still a lagging measure. CEO has his goal, or coach has his goal, and his lagging measure, which is the goal, is to win 20 games this year, whatever. They know that one of the aspects of it is shooting. So he's got a goal, and then the lower level has a goal, and then that shooting coach needs to say, okay, I have my goal. It's lined up with the company's goals, or the CEO's goals, or the coach's goals. How do I get my team to shoot better percentage of foul shots? And he formulates, okay, if I have every individual on my team shoot 50 free throws every day at practice under pressure situations or whatever, then I believe that I'm going to get from 60% to 80%. That act of shooting those 50 free throws every day at practice is the leading measure. Does that make sense?
It's just like this club.
Yeah.
This club is a leading, if your goal is to be, the director of project management or VP, part of the leading measure is this book club. The person who put this book club together, their lagging measure was starting the book club. Their leading measure was, how do I get people, how do I get, it's all that. So just using this example of why you're here, this is truly a leading measure of ultimately, I think, why people are here, because they ultimately, I assume, want to achieve something. They want to get to that lagging measure.
Well put.
So, and that's why this team, that's why these are the leading measures. We all focus on the lagging measures, but I think this book clearly wants you to identify your leading measures so you can truly achieve the lagging. And if you don't, go back and see if your leading measures are the proper measures so you can do it again. Because, or you may have a goal, a lagging measure that it's just impossible. My goal is to be a professional swimmer and make the Olympics. I gotta keep looking at my leading measures to identify if my lagging measure is just a goal that really may not be in my future, or how much time do I have to do it. So I think I think Russ explained it, and I think it's an excellent, and like I said, I like this because that's why you're here. These are that's why leading ones are more important than lagging. They're so much more important.
Yeah.
The journey is the leading measure. Our life is a leading measure to a lagging measure of what was my life like.
Yeah, and also, Ed, what you alluded to was that you may find out that your leading measures aren't affecting your lagging measures or your goals, and then you have to change them. So if that coach then decides, okay, I'm going to work on dribbling practice, you know what I mean? We're gonna learn how to dribble better. Well, that's not going to likely to change the free throw percentage, you know. And as we work our way through this, you know, if we adopt this methodology, we're definitely going to find out that some of the leading measures that we've chosen are not moving the needle. They're not moving the scoreboard, you know, because sometimes they just don't. And then you have to assess that and say, okay, well, it was a good thing we did it, but it didn't necessarily lead to the end result. And I think a lot of people I think it's easy for people to, and again, I'll reference back to the 7 habits because it's structured that way. A lot of people will think that something's good for them without knowing where they want to go. One of the examples I like to use, especially with young people, like Ryan Hamp asked me one time when he wanted to go to graduate school. He said, he sought my advice and he said, hey, I'm thinking about getting my MBA in business. And because he thought that was going to get him he was going to get him closer to what he wanted to do as an end result. And you find young people do this all the time with college. They go to college because they think it's the right thing to do, but they don't really know what they want to do after they get done college. Ryan was in a similar situation, and I said, well, what's your career path? What do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And then after we talked about that for a little while, he understood that his path was going to be in the leadership. You know, his next level of what he wasn't going to be wasn't necessarily to be know about accounting and finance and things like that. It was more about leading people. So as we talked about that, he decided to get his MBA in leadership. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important to understand what those lagging measures are, those goals are, before you really get started.
Yeah, and you know, a big part of the process when we were doing this, and I feel like this book lends itself to being part of a group work. I mean, yes, you could definitely use this on your own, but how much time do we spend on the front end just talking about what the goals were, what the leading measures were? You know, we knew what the lagging measures were. Those are easy to pick. Like, hey, we want to move this much, this X percentage, you know? It's like, okay, but what's going to tell us that we're doing it along the way? And that was the hard part. I remember we sat in here for hours talking about things and, well, this kind of does it, but doesn't really do it, and what does do it, and what doesn't do it, and, you know, I had ideas, and you had ideas, and it was going back and forth talking about it, trying to really figure out, like, all right, well, what are really good leading measures? What are we actually going to use to get us from A to B? And it was an interesting practice, you know, to go through.
If I can interject in that, Vinny and I, when I first came up here and we started talking, one of the things Vinny was adamant about, and still is adamant about it, but he was very sure that we needed to do more training of our foreman, especially. It's one of the things he's doing now, but he definitely wanted to do that, and that's one of those things that, like, training is it's very clear. Training is going to improve people, but we had to ask ourselves, what are we going to train? You know, what are we going to train for? And is it going to lead to our goals? You know, so now we just have more clarity. We know what we want to train on now because we know where we're headed.
Yeah, and you know, on that, one of the things I appreciated the most about this book was that it's rare that you get to focus on something, like really actually focus on something and see it through, and that's what this is. This is like, all right, you've got a goal, you're gonna stay on that path and see it through, because it's easy to get distracted, right? I mean, we all, especially with what we do, we look at our jobs and it's like, how many different aspects are there that constantly need improvement? You know, I mean, you could just sit there and spin your wheels all day long, just chasing your tail, trying to, you know, increase productivity in 18 different aspects and this and that and that, and it's overwhelming. It's like all that effort goes out and you really see no result, and you're just beating yourself up. With this, it's like, okay, you've got a goal, You've established what that is. You've created a path. See it through.
Yep.
You know, like you have everything else going on in your whirlwind. That doesn't change. You know what I mean? Your whirlwind is always there. But that goal, you stay on that path specifically and don't deviate. You don't get off of it. You don't, oh, I'm going to start working on this now. No, you stay on it and see it through. And it's, in a lot of ways, it's extremely refreshing. That was like the most attractive thing for me about this. But it's also turning out to be one of the most difficult. Because along the way, other things are coming out, right? So as we're working on like pre-task plans or observation reports, we're discovering other things that we know require attention, but it's like, gotta stay on the path, So it's a discipline. It's what it turns out to be. It's just staying disciplined and seeing your plan through, and not abandoning it. And it's we've over the years had good ideas, things we've talked about, things that we wanted to do, started doing, and then they taper off because something else more important happens, With this, we've stayed disciplined to it. We've had weekly meetings.
Like something else came along that was more urgent.
Right, exactly. And it's like, last week I had something that pushed my meeting with my guys back, but we still got it in that week. We made sure we did it. And it was hard, If it was something else, I probably would have canceled it, tried to reschedule for the next week. There's always something in the way. Always. Like, I don't think any of us here are like, nah, I can just make a schedule and nothing happens. Like, I'm good to go. We all deal with that. But this keeps bringing you back to it. You have to keep revisiting these things. You have to stay on target, stay on track. We were talking about that today. I've had weekly meetings with my guys for 5 months, and they're on it. We do it once a week. We stay, with it, and we keep pushing it and keep working toward that goal. And it's great because I've never had that kind of success with just keeping something moving for that amount of time. So the biggest takeaway from the book was that, just the consistency and staying on track and on path, what that's done for us and the results we've gotten from it. Maybe the needle hasn't moved tremendously, but it has moved. But just the accomplishment of staying on something for 5 months with a team, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I also, one of the things about the book that I liked was that they, he speaks about the whirlwind and appreciates the fact that it's there and it's always going to be there. You know what I mean? And I could say myself as a manager, I for a long time was kind of like the issue of the month club. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this comes up, then you got to address that, and this comes up, you got to address that. And meanwhile, a lot of the other initiatives that I had would end up taking a back seat to just reacting to whatever the most urgent thing that comes up. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Right. Miriam, before you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that I like the part when they talk about the whirlwind and the disciplines, and then they said that when they're talking about meeting and keeping a steady schedule, similar to what Vinny was saying, and that if you don't keep track of that or measuring or holding everybody accountable, if you don't show that, then the rest of your team is going to lose interest on that because they're going to think that it's not as important as it has initially been established, and that eventually then if that doesn't get reinforced, then we all go back to the whirlwind where we came from. So I thought, that's just is like pretty much showing more that we got to keep those healthy habits that we are learning and maintaining them. If we want to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also helpful to have a group.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we hold each other accountable to that meeting's going to happen every week, and it's a group. Somebody in the group is going to have something that they're not going to be able to make it, or they're not going to be able to get their task done that week, or whatever it is. But when you're going to go sit with a group of 5 people or 6 people that. All right, I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be the guy in that room who fell down that week.
You had the issue with the structure of the I had my target was moved, and it's there's always something.
Yeah.
And as long as we stick together and stick to a plan and the habits, and it's the best practice.
Yeah.
So there's no secret formula. It's just a consistency.
Yeah, and you don't want to let your team down.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's the last thing. It's not even the last thing. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be that person.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Michael, Elena, Corey. Corey's never at a loss for words.
Well, I really enjoyed this book, and I got to be honest with you, and I'm going to be candid for a moment. When Russ assigned this, I believe it was Deb and I, to read the 7 Habits, I'm like, oh man, this guy's a pain in the ass. And I got to be honest, because I'm not a book guy. I just don't have that time, and there's a part of me that's a strong nerd, if you will. It's just that my life doesn't allow me to be that guy at times. So I'm like, this is crazy. And then I got the audio book, and I really liked that book. And Cubby was just really profound with his take on things, and how, he changed his presentation and changed your thought process to see things that applied across the entire spectrum of life, not just at work, right? So when Russ brought this into play, and I saw it was correlated with Cubby and everything else, I really enjoyed this. And this is something that we can hands-on take into a professional environment, and we're actually doing that up in North Jersey. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but I'm really engaged in this. And it's something that, for me, it hits on 2 different levels, because the engineer in me loves the scoreboard aspect of it, and you can physically see the process and track the results of your leading measures, right? It's a lagging measure, but your leading measures that you're working on from week to week, you're seeing the effort go into it, and you're seeing the numbers associated with it, and that, to me, anytime I can take a concept and put it into something that clicks, and with me it was numbers. It kind of paints the whole picture of what's working and what's not, what needs to be changed, what doesn't need to be changed. This was just really profound, and I really enjoyed this, and it was something that I could really, apply, not just by assignment from Russ, but something that I could make my own, bring my own creativity to it, and get everybody engaged in it to a point where it becomes a team mission. And Eduardo pointed out, you don't want to be the guy that's kind of falling behind on your goals. And, I got to be honest with you, in a lot of settings, when you hear the word goals, it's like, yeah, it's something that we'll get to, or something we'll spend some time on here and there when we can. But this kind of keeps you in line and keeps you directed and motivated to achieve those goals. And you can see it on a weekly, step-by-step basis. So, I thought this was excellent. And I'm usually pragmatic about additional assignments, but this was something I really enjoyed.
And the emphasis coming from the guy that said he was not going to buy the book every month. Said, I'm not buying the book, it's too expensive. I don't have the money for it.
Well,
was the first answer.
Doesn't mean I bought the book. It just means there's great notes on the subject. You got your way through college and high school by listening closely and picking up on what people say and reading the summaries. And you can you'd be surprised.
That's great.
Yeah, this is the first book I listened to on audio. I know we spoke about audiobooks for a long time, and I'm a tactile guy. I like reading. I like highlighting, bending pages over and stuff. And when you first started talking about it, I was like, all right, I need to know what the hell you're talking about, because I was like, I want a better understanding of what's going on here, because I knew this seemed like something that you really wanted to do. So I got the audiobook, and it was an interesting experience as a first audiobook, especially because it's like getting a textbook read to you, basically, right? Because I mean, this more or less is like a textbook in a lot of senses, right? It's instruction, it's direction, discipline. So it was an interesting experience. There's a part of me that would have preferred to have read it, but, and then been able to go back and highlight things and reference them. But it was still good, It still got me through it. But then when I tried to re-listen to it, it's like every time I listen to it, I drift right off. Like, they start talking about something and it triggers something in my head, and I'm just like, and I'm gone. You know, so trying to listen to it again for this, I had a hard time, you know, going back. So
Sometimes I do that and I kind of do it purposefully. Like, I want to brainstorm.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So when I go back the second time and listen to it, I know that I'm going to start to wander. My mind's going to start to wander, but it's wandering in a good direction because
Right.
it's brainstorming about something that was said in the book, and I'll
Developing some.
4 pages later
Yeah.
that the guy's still talking, I'm off on another tangent, but it's I still find it to be productive time.
yeah.
Do you think when we read one book a month is too much? Should we break in half? That's where I was going, because you thought, understand.
For me,
Yeah, because what I'm coming from is that sometimes if you go halfway and then we under the impression that the book is saying something and we're not so sure, and if you have the opportunity to meet up with with each other, and then something clicks and then we have a different view, understanding of the book, it may be helpful. I don't know if you guys see any see if.
I'm good with one a month, but like I listen
Me
to
too.
them.
I have
a long
no problem.
commute,
It works
Yeah.
better, so we
So
can
it's fine.
exchange that information and to see if you're on the same understanding, or if you want to, or one book, 1 month is fine. Just asking, throwing it out there.
The other thing I'll throw out there is I've been saving book summaries in operations folder for quite a while now. If you guys, oops.
Yeah, I went there. It's excellent. I'll tell you what, that's a fantastic way to see what, I just went there today and saw it. So I think it's a thing for anybody on the staff who would like to get a feel, who doesn't maybe have the time or would like to kind of see, a summary. I think it's great.
Yeah, so they're in the operations folder under book summaries. Like I said, I've been saving them in there for a while, and since I listened to the books, and I can appreciate what Vinny's saying about needing a reference material.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's what I started doing that, because when I would get a good book, I wanted to be able to revisit it without needing to go through to listen to the whole thing again to pull out important points. And I'll continue to do that. I had to subscribe to a website that has book summaries. So as we go through and whatever our next reads are, I'll find a way to get the summaries for it too.
Did you actually
Yeah,
write these, or is that something you downloaded?
I'm sorry, say again?
Did you actually write each one of those summaries?
No, no, I got them off.
Man.
I got them off websites.
Like, wow.
Yeah, I write book summaries. In my spare
I
time.
was saying to myself, like, man, that's an amazing memory. You listen to the book, you write the book summary. That's incredible.
Where do you work?
There are professional people on the internet that do this stuff.
Good for you, man.
Honestly, answer me on this. Is that a summary list that you put together, or is that a curriculum for me in the future?
Well, Mike,
Yes and yes.
A lot of reading right there.
well, Mike, I like to give you little bits and pieces at a time. It helps the buy-in. So there's some good stuff in
The
there.
Russ University.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in there.
I mean, look, for me, and I think I told this to Russ, this book was difficult for me. I thought what was in it was fantastic, but it harked me back to school, and it's my feeling on it made me not like it, because it took me back to a place where I never read, because I didn't feel, but I got through it, but there's so many good things in it. For me, the structure of the book, and that's, I think, what book club is everybody's got their own, I've never been in a book club, but I would assume everybody's got their own genre, their own way. Vinny and I are similar. I can't listen to it on tape because it would take me a year to read it. I tried that, and I would just go off. But this structure of this book for me
just doesn't resonate with the way I consume books. Doesn't mean that there's not some great lessons in there, so getting through it helped me because there was a lot of things in there that I can relate to. The structure of the book really, I almost literally could feel my body not wanting to read it anymore because of the way it was structured. And book reading sometimes is about wanting to find, that's why it's good to have a diverse crowd, because I do think it's important for us all to bring different genres and different ways of learning, because I think we all learn at a different speed. That's why Eduardo's question of one a month. If you told me I had to read this book once a month, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. That doesn't mean it's, I just would be like, I need like 3 months to get through this. I just need more time. The summary, when I read the summary this morning, if I would have known the summary was there, I would have bailed on that book the whole time.
That's what Mike did.
Hey, don't give away my secrets.
It works.
But what I do think in books that I want to at least express, reading the book does give you a much better, you know, as a person who lived off of Spark Notes and whatever in school, there's more in a book than the summary. And you want to read the whole book to get the whole essence of the book. If you don't like it, that's the beauty. I love Russ's, the rules of this book club are fantastic, number one. You don't want to read it and you can't finish it, no one's judging you.
That's Eduardo's rules.
Speak for yourself.
I think the rules are fantastic. So that's why I wanted to tell you that as much as I love what everyone got out of the book, and I'm learning actually from what you got out of the book, because I drifted on this book. So I think that's why I think book club's good too, because then your genre, the way you liked it, is letting me educate myself. So
Did you feel like
sorry.
did you feel like there weren't enough like examples that kind of led you to what it was more like technical structure, not enough
Exactly.
not enough stories.
Mhm.
I need stories. I need to relate. I have to put myself in those situations, and the stories help me. It makes me, resonate with the feeling. A book has to have, for me, a function and a feeling. It's got to have a function that makes me better at what I'm doing, but I also have to feel it. I have to feel like I like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of reading now, is if I don't like it, I just stop. And that's the beauty of the way we can learn now compared to in school. And this is such a great, and then to have a book club where no one's judged, well, maybe Eduardo's judged.
Most of us aren't judging you.
Summary, the idea of what this book is doing, and then that gives me a great feeling, because then I feel like, okay, wasn't my cup of tea, but that doesn't mean I can't learn something.
Absolutely.
It's great.
And would you choose something that you want to read about?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What's
Oh,
that?
I said, like, would you choose something that
Yes,
you want to
speaking
read
agenda.
about, and maybe that would change your view of the books? And I'm just saying because I started doing the same thing. Like, I've been trying to start reading, to take reading on again. And this year I made that commitment. Like, I have to start reading this year. I just have to. So I started with audiobooks, and then I just didn't see
That's your leading
myself
measure.
starting and committing to it. So I picked something that I would really like to learn about. So then I started listening to it. And then, I went through, I wish I actually would have a book in front of me. Because, similar to what Vinny said, I want to hide that. I just don't want to listen. My mind started drifting I had to be rewinding so many times. And then, but then I got used to it because I really was interested into what the subject was. And then I read, I listened to 3 more in that way. And I think that's the reason why I was able to listen to this one too, and to grasp something on it.
Yeah, well, Russ is like my guide tour in this book because as much as I did it on audio, and whenever I'm in the car, I usually have Madeline. Madeline was not a fan of this book at all. She was a fan of it.
Two thumbs down.
And I'll be honest, I still have 36 minutes on in this book to finish because every time that I put it on, she tells me to put something else on. So, for whatever reason, it did not resonate with the 4-year-old at all, which a lot of
I wonder
a lot
why.
of other books do. But I mean, Russ has really, because I get very discouraged in like what I set for my goal at this point, and that's because I picked one that I feel like is immeasurable at this point. But even with it being immeasurable, he still pushes me to stick to it because it's still a really good. Like he still sees the value, and I feel like he truly believes that eventually we're going to be able to measure the data that we find.
I think for us,
I
it's
agree,
easier.
Elena. I think just to go back to even what Miriam said, I think that's the beauty of you know just starting to read anything should be part of a plan too. You know, I mean, just trying to expand your mind. I read things I want to read. I did like the premise of the book. I just didn't find the exact story and structure the way I like to consume books. Just like some people like to hear them on audio and some people like to read them. I have to read them. I can't do it if I don't try audio. So that's the same thing. I think if there's something else to get you, I think part of this book club should also be just about general learning and understanding of why, we're a construction company. The fact that let's say we read a Harry Potter book. I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying that you understand you were telling the staff that I want my mind to become more, I want to grow it. I want it to be expanded. I want it to be, I want it to be stronger and better. And I think the part of book club to me is that message. And then obviously translating this education into something that you want to do. If you want to get better, you're here. If you want to get better, on anything. So I think go back to, and yes, everybody's got their own way. So no, this was, again, not my cup of tea, the book, not what it was pitching. That's what I'm saying. I'm being specific. I love what was in the content of the book. I just could not, the structure of the feel of it, reading it, that's how I believe book reading is. You gotta kind of want it. And then there's other books that I can't put down. And I can't wait to read it. Like, I want to know. And that could be a mystery. That could be whatever you're really interested in. And as construction industry, we want to encourage, I think Russ is, and Mark, and that's why this is so good. We just encourage you to just do more striving to improve. That's all.
I'll speak for that. What was it, 6-7 years ago when I asked Ed and Russ, what should I do to move forward? I was a foreman, and you guys said, all right, start by reading these 3 or 4 books. That was the first book I'd read since I was in high school. So I was 34 years old, maybe, something like that, 35, somewhere around there. I hadn't read a book in 18 years about. Since then, my wife the other day was like, we're getting ready to start moving. My wife's like, how many books do you have? She's like, there's books everywhere now. And it just, once I started getting back into reading again, I was like, oh my God, this was a part of my life that I missed out. All those years I was just so focused on doing what I was doing, and I never made time for it. And it was, once I started doing it, making time for it again, it's just like everything just started opening back up. And it's like, once you start getting back into books and reading books, and then you first I started off with reading the books you guys told me to read. Then it was like, okay, well then now what? So I started finding other books and talking to more people about it. And it's just, it's like, if you're a reader, you have like a book backlog, right? There's like always 5 or 6 books in your queue and your Amazon list or on your audio list or whatever that you're like, I'm gonna get to this one, then this one, and then someone else tells you a new book. You're like, oh man, I'm like 10 deep already, man. Like I want to read this, and you put that one in front of other ones. It becomes like a whole thing in your life that now it's part of your life. You're reading and you're excited about it, and it's great. I mean, what you learn along the way and what you gain from that, it's just, it's a great thing to be part of. So if this spawns more of that, then that's great, you know?
Yeah.
It's true. I take Madeline to the library every Monday, and I actually picked up, because I've been doing audio all the time, and I finally picked up a real book. And even I only spend 10 minutes a day, but I take those 10 minutes to read as much as I can out of the book instead of listening to it.
It's awesome.
Nicely measured. Well done.
There you go.
Well, there are a lot of options out there. I guess I think that for us, in particular North Jersey, was easier because now we're involved with this system that we're trying to implement. But there's definitely other titles that they may serve see to feed. One of the structure of the book club is not just one book. There is what they call is a book club. Within a book club, you can have your primary book like your week, and you can have a secondary book, which is more distractive, so you can relax, or you can pick different titles. Like Ed mentioned, for instance, like this is more technical. It is not in life. So we have, I don't know, maybe a golden circle or start with a Y. This thing, the kind of book that will draw you in with experience. Would be mentioning, I don't know, Apple's experience of mission here and there, or things that it's just different ideas. So I think for this first meeting, nobody knew what to expect. It's new to everybody. Kind of had a little jitter, a little tension in the first meeting. Now we're kind of finding our way, obviously, and then within time, it's just, I guess, decide what the title comes next, put up some options, see what kind of book you guys want to read. We can alternate or go more, I don't know, more technical, more relaxed, more, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. You don't want to be boring. You want to make something that we look forward to, to meet with each other each month. That's the whole
I think we
idea.
should all pick one, right? Like as we go around, like it doesn't matter what order it is, but like if you pick this first one to go with, and Russ or Alina or somebody else wants to suggest the second book, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I think that's kind of cool because you're bringing a book to the club that meant something to you, right? And like we're talking about, everybody has a different feeling about it, so we're all going to kind of bring a different approach to it, and then maybe the person that brings the book kind of leads the club for that month a little bit, right? So, you make a suggestion, you're kind of, it's your book club for the month, everyone
Yeah.
reads it, and then you
I like that.
do the meeting.
Works for me.
We all get a turn, right?
I love that idea. I think the person who loves a book, who wants to pick a book, or really wants that book, will really pitch it to us like a good teacher. Like a teacher, you know what I mean? Like a teacher that is like, I want you to learn, and we all would read it, and I think that's I also think it gives a more well-rounded, diverse group to really learn. I think Vinny and we learn from each other. We're gonna learn from each other, and that's really, I have to leave in a minute, but that really is successful together. I mean, it really is. I mean, because everybody's got their own way, but you can teach me, I would, a book maybe that I don't like, you may be able to educate me on, which is exactly what I would want. Instead of just talking at me, you'll help me. You'll help me understand why it was so powerful to you, and you'll talk about it in a passionate way that'll make me really understand that. And then I'm reading it, and I may not comprehend it like you, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah. That makes sense. And I think that's, as a newbie to the whole book club scene, that would be awesome.
So with that said, how do we want to go for moving forward? Who is going to pick the book? You want to go alphabetical order, age, gender? Who is going to pick? It doesn't have to give the title right away, but who when they offer himself, someone wants to offer that, choose the book, give the title, suggest the title at least.
I feel like someone who's not here has to choose because they didn't show up.
Everybody wanted to be here, but there were some scheduling conflicts. We didn't want to push it another week because we had already pushed it because of the retirement party last week.
Right. I don't want to pick the second book. I still need to learn more a little bit about it, and I would love to pick your brain after I read. I didn't know that these book summaries were here. Oh my god! Wish they
Another
was here.
one. Cheater.
Purposefully didn't tell you before the meeting.
Yeah, like I'm gonna read it, and then I really hope to pick your brain, Russ, because obviously you're a vet, kind of implementing this, and my team truly needs it. So I would like to, just pick your brain. You know, I'm not trying to give you a big head, but a lot of this stuff. But I kept trying to internalize it. How can I? What is the way for my group? And I can't.
He's just sitting in one of our meetings.
Yeah.
What the hell? They were working fine the whole time.
The leader of my team.
I got it.
You know, it's one of those things that you come with an idea to kind of push it a little bit forward. I need that, like, I need that push. You know, I need someone to kind of guide me into what, I just need help trying to internalize it and put it into what my team is doing, and just, I had a little trouble with that, but.
I couldn't hear.
Someone will help me.
What I might recommend, Corey, is to talk to him to say, hey, I'm a part of this book club, and this is what we read this month, and you know, some of the lessons we've learned from it, I think, are very applicable to what we're trying to do. If you want to, if you're interested in it, this is the name of the book. You could look at the summary if you want. It's
No doubt.
you know, just try to.
I'd rather just go prepared with the wig in hand and the lead measures and the scoreboard, just be like, this is what I think we should do.
That's
You know what I
difficult.
mean?
That's
Yeah,
difficult.
I wouldn't do that.
It's difficult because I think you're gonna hit a wall. I think it's human nature that you're gonna hit a wall because
He's dictating.
you're dictating and you're not involving him. Yeah, that's a good point. You're dictating.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, like, I feel like my success with this so far was completely based on the fact that I handed it over to my guys and involved them and got them, even though, like, I knew what I wanted from them, but they were there every step of the way building it and working on it and telling me, and I kept throwing it back to them. What do you think? What do you think we should do? How should we do it? What's your idea? Do you like this? Do you like that? Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't just like, all right, guys, here's what we're gonna do. Starting Monday, you're gonna start filling this out. Blah, 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 blah. Like, listen, the field is notorious for not wanting to do anything to do with paperwork, right? Like, if someone tells me that I have more paperwork to do, I'm like, oh my god, why do you hate me? You know what I mean? Like, for real. We've written up pages of things that these guys fill out now in the field that they developed that I could never have sold them on if I did it exactly the way it is. I never could have sold them on it. They do it because they built it, and it's important to them. It means something to them. They were involved in it, so they're stake in the game. You know, they're skin in the game. You know, like they're stakeholders now. So
Team.
that's key, man.
All right.
It doesn't mean that you have to do everything that it's saying, but
I'm sorry, go ahead, Edward.
okay, it doesn't mean the book says, you know, there's a chapter. It doesn't mean, you know, you take their inputs. I mean, it doesn't mean they have to do everything that they're saying out there that they're suggesting, your ultimate decision, but, you know, the fact that they engage in and participate in that takes a whole new dimension and makes them to be interested and participate because they're part of something.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So we'll talk about it, Corey, some more. I'm obviously willing to help. So we can do that off.
Yeah, we're
We
not
can do
on
it
the topic of who's picking the next book. I apologize, I pulled us away from that.
Yeah, who's picking the next book?
I don't go alphabetical.
I didn't want to pick. I'll pick in a couple months, but I don't want to pick yet. If that's okay.
What about last name, first name? Russ, you want to suggest your book?
Yeah, well, this was kind of my suggestion, this one. If somebody's asking me what book would be a good one to,
Wait, so you're taking this one as your pick?
I can take it as my pick.
Alright,
I will take this one as my pick because
Okay.
it was my pick.
alright.
So,
So,
suggest one?
I've
You
got-
wanna do the pick? No, not to give the title though,
Oh.
right away, just pick a book. You don't need to give a title right away.
yeah, I'll
Maybe
pick
something
one.
you never read before.
Yeah, I'll pick one, I
Just
definitely.
to share with the rest of the
Okay.
group.
Yeah, yeah, I got one in mind. You guys good with that, if I go next? Or Paul?
Yes.
Alright,
Absolutely.
alright.
So,
Curious George it is.
What is it?
Come on, it's
Curious
Paul's
George it
favorite
is.
book.
Curious George.
Listen, like 7 pages with a serious story in there,
That Elena's daughter and my son would love it as
right?
well.
There you go.
I
I'm thinking for the whole group
We're,
here.
we're reading Raising Your Spirited Child right now, and that's love that one. So,
Yeah.
Nice.
Miriam, that might be a good one. You have a little young girl, and Corey, you
Yeah.
have a couple
Dora the
young
Explorer.
ones. They might be good for you.
Just for that, now we're gonna read The Republic by Plato.
Raising Your Spirited Child. Yeah.
All right, so Vinny's gonna pick the
It's a
book,
guide to
and
the
what's the deadline to get it to everybody? What book you're gonna?
I'll send out tomorrow. I already.
Okay.
Yeah.
6 o'clock, 5:30 today.
I'll have it out there for everyone tomorrow.
All right, thanks. We appreciate you. Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for jumping on the pedestal because I was like, I'm not thinking.
Yeah, and I think I heard Ed said that we could expense all the books in the book club.
That's not a problem.
Well, yeah, well, by the way, whoever contributes more, you see, that it is a group effort, obviously, but whoever participates, whoever we feel that gave more insight on the book, we have a surprise gift for that person.
Nice.
Cool.
Alright?
Awesome.
Probably
Awesome.
Cool.